Our next speaker is James, and so the last two talks we were talking about viruses, we were talking about oil spills. James is going to continue on that theme with some conversations, some visualizations about the spread of a different kind of squirt.
Right, so I've got a very serious topic here to talk to you about, mapping the spread of Starbucks throughout the United States. My name's James. I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington, where I study astronomy. And so I spend most of my time looking at images like this. And I use a lot of, I guess what you would call data analysis and data science kind of skills, as well as a little bit of basic data visualization to look at the destruction of star clusters. A lot of these tools I also get to use in my free time, and I study things like census data. I have a blog, I do fun projects. This is what nerds do on the weekend, right? So, the most important tool in any scientist's toolkit when you're getting a PhD is, of course, a cup of coffee, especially when you're studying here in Seattle. So here you go, this is how you get a PhD. It's a simple equation, drink coffee, get a degree. Now this is my muse, and of course it inspired one of my first data visualization projects on my website, which was to study the distribution of coffee shops around the University of Washington campus. I was relieved to know, and relieved to find, that you are always within 2 minutes walking distance of a coffee shop that you dug. So never go uncaffeinated. Now you can't talk about coffee in Seattle without talking about the 12,000-pound gorilla, which is Starbucks. Ooh, right. Well, you're standing about 800 feet from ground zero Starbucks. And I thought this would be a really fun data set to visualize and to play with. Now, rather than to pay some data warehouse a couple $100 for a complete listing of Starbucks, and Lord knows they're not going to pick up if I call them, we did the basic data science technique of grabbing it off the internet for free. So you do the basic game of scrape, clean, and analyze, and what you result in is, of course, the United States of Starbucks. So here I've shown, it's about 90% of the company-owned Starbucks locations in the United States. You can see they're arranged, you can't quite see it, it's arranged in the Delaunay triangulation matrix. If you're a stats nerd, this will make sense to you. You can do fun minimum spanning tree kinds of things with this if you're really into it. But you can see that it clusters around cities, highways, major metropolitan areas. In fact, again, you're standing at ground zero of Starbucks basically. There's something like 80 Starbucks within a 2-mile radius of you right now. So you have no excuse to not get a pumpkin spice latte. This density can get as high as about 150 per few square miles in New York City. It's incredible, actually. This draws to mind a famous visualization, Von Worley's United States and McDonald's map, the Mick masterpiece, of course, and which he used to find the lowest density point of McDonald's, which is something like in South Dakota, I think. So I thought, well, what the hell, I'll just copy this. Here is the United States again of Starbucks using a Voronoi diagram, or Voronoi diagram. Of course, you can't see it on the projector, of course, but you can use this to find the lowest density spot of Starbucks in the United States, which should come up right about now. And yeah, so this is something like the least caffeinated spot in America. This happens to be in Grand Teton National Park, so if you're an outdoors fan, you can go and enjoy. It's about 8 or 9 miles from Alta, Wyoming. So I tried to get a street view image. There's no streets there. So this is somebody's picture. There you go. Now, I got a good chance to do a lot of sort of basic research on Starbucks when I was doing this post for my blog. One of the fun other facts I learned was that your rent increases with your proximity to Starbucks. This is from somebody else's study. This is in London, but this kind of makes sense. Apologies to Tufty, this is a kind of an ugly figure. So I thought, well, what the hell, I'll replicate this too. Well, sort of. I'll analyze our distribution around Starbucks instead of Starbucks' distribution around us. So here's just a subset of the Starbucks locations in the Midwest. And if you take circles and draw them around every single Starbucks in distances of like 1, 2, 10, 50, 100 miles, yeah, so graphically I'm just sort of drawing this out here. You can count the number of people inside of each circle, okay? So it's a simple enough game. It's a little nested for loop. It takes a long time to run on my shitty laptop. But this gives you what I think is the most beautiful visualization. Maybe you'll hate it. The distribution of our population as a function of the distance to the nearest Starbucks. And this is a very informative and simple graphic. It's not that catching. No news sources picked this up. But the headline is 80% of you live within 20 miles of a Starbucks. So you could use this as the definition of urbanization. Something like 82% of Americans live in a, quote, urbanized area, and I would argue that means you're within access of a Starbucks. Now, you might not drive 20 miles for a pumpkin spice latte, but you'll drive 20 miles to a Walmart, or to a Lowe's, or Home Depot. And Starbucks has only been expanding for about 28 years. So that's 80% of you covered within about a 20-minute drive in 28 years, which is just a little bit younger than I am, and that's amazing.